speaking about that onion and authentic calm, take us through how you would approach a client that would come to you with several layers, several different personalized traumas, all sorts of things, because that's, in today's day and age, it's never the one thing. Oh, you have this one imbalance, let's give you this vitamin, you'll be good.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
Gosh.
I don't
Wouldn't
think it
that
ever
be nice?
did, but it would be nice.
Oh my
But
gosh.
it's the modern day person is just layered. Even if you are so-called healthy, you're going to have layers, because healing is a constant journey, and no one is at zero where they're completely fine to have none of those layers. So can you take us through a little bit of what the process would be, especially as you're talking about cultivating this authentic calm with a client?
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good question. So, and that's really helpful, because it's different for me walking a client through it versus someone walking through it themselves, right? So for me as a practitioner, people often come to me with one specific or two specific goals, right? Of, well, I'll use an easy one. I have acne, or my stomach hurts, or this is a big one. I bloat a lot after I eat, because I work with a lot of women. And so, we often get turned towards health because of our appearance or how we feel. And so when someone comes to me, there's always one or two things. And by the time they finish my intake forms, they're like, Jessi, oh my gosh, there's so many things wrong with me.
Those intake forms really kind of break it down, like, oh man, I am not that healthy, apparently.
I know. Well, so here's my thing. And please re-rein me in, because I tend to go on rabbit trails sometimes. I apologize if I do that. But so many passions. My goal is always to empower my clients, because that was my journey. I never want to play God. One, I'm not a doctor, so take that off the table. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner, functional nutritional therapy practitioner, and flower essence practitioner. So for me, my journey and my goal is to empower my clients with tools that, whether I'm in their life afterwards or not, they can move forward with those tools. They can keep using them. So when a client comes to see me, from the minute we start talking, I start educating them. And I always give them a warning, take an hour to do my intake forms, because you'll need it. But they're very thorough, and they ask questions that most people would never ask, because there includes all the standard, but all the questions that I wish that practitioners had asked me, or questions that one did, but another didn't. And so I have the blessing of having the gift of so many practitioners that I personally experienced, or mentors or teachers that have really shown me a broad spectrum of what comes into play into health. And so by filling out these forms, and this sounds silly, but the simple act of not removing the information. So if you've ever filled out a form for a chiropractor or a doctor, anyone, they don't often tell you why they're asking the question. They just have you answer. And I actually put the different organ systems when you answer the question. So you're answering, all these questions are related to blood sugar. All these questions are related to liver, gallbladder health. All these questions are related to the small intestine, not just gut health, the small intestine. And so when they're answering these questions, they're learning. Yeah. And they come to me and they're like, I didn't realize that symptom was connected to the state of my small intestine. I just thought my stomach, my abdomen, where's my small intestine, by the way? So it's from day one that we walk through, and that's my goal, because in order for them to be authentic, they have to understand their body, right? And so it's a partnership. And I always encourage all of my practitioners, friends to do this as well. And usually they are, but to not play that God role, but to say, only I have the answer, and you have to come to me to be helped. Yeah. I don't believe in that. I believe in being a partner. So when I come in with a client, it's a partnership, and together we're going to uncover what I call the language of your body. So we're going to get to know your unique rhythms and patterns, and that can be emotional, that can be physical. Sometimes it's both. I have clients that purely come to me and we talk about, with flower essence therapy, like emotional patterns. I have clients that come to me and talk just purely about physical. And I have most of my clients that we marry the two. We're talking about all the above, because they all interrelate, and they all all impact each other. So sometimes if they're having, a response to something, it's not that the nutrient or the food is bad. It's that they just found out that someone in their family passed, and that they're forgetting that, like, why am I feeling this way? And it's like, your uncle just passed and you were super close to him. Like, of course you're feeling this way. You're processing it. So that's like a really simple example, but that's, I think, what's important is to help my clients understand how their body works. So, from that first intake where we really dive into, okay, your history, and we start from day one, it's your health timeline is what I call it, right? Your health story. We talk about your whole birthing process. And again, not to blame your mom, there's no blame here, no judgment, but it's simply to understand what are the pieces that you were given. What was the foundation that was laid for you? And so if you came in and your mom, you were a C-section baby and things like that, and you weren't, inoculated, then right away, I'm like, okay, let's take a look at that gut. Did you have ear infections consistently? Were you picky with food? Just all these things starts to show us the building, right, of that imbalance of the gut is usually where we always come back to on the function side, on the physical side. But we start to see the patterns, and together we go through it and understand, oh, that's why in high school, okay, that's right, I got multiple rounds of antibiotics. And I never thought to take probiotics, specifically like spore-based or native probiotics, to like repopulate my gut and all these things. So it became, more and more vulnerable. And then in college, I got exposed to mold and mono and all these things. And so almost all my clients, like, their symptoms start after college because, those dorms, they get me every time. I'm so there's such health risks. Anyways, that's another story. But it's, you start to see how it grew. And for them, it's like, it just popped up all of a sudden, these symptoms. I was so healthy, and then all of a sudden this happened. But when we go through that story and that timeline, they're able to see, oh no, it started at day one. Okay, I get it now. And then we start to understand, okay, if this has been building your entire life, the idea that I could give you a supplement or even run a test, which I love running functional tests, I'm all about them, and do what I call a foundational reset, which is like 3 months of really like rebalancing the gut or rebalancing the hormones or whatever it is that we need to do. It still might not fully resolve everything, because 3 months versus like your whole life, like it's a journey, So again, it's about educating, because we live in a culture of instant gratification, and I am 100%, I struggle with that all the time. I'm I love being quick. I love moving forward. I like being efficient. I don't like detours. Like, get me there quickly. Let's do this. No busy work. But in flower essence speak, that's very Vervain, very Empatians. But so I see that in my clients, and I feel that, and I'm like, I'm with you, like 100%, because what's beautiful is, since I've been on this journey myself, it's like, I know what that feels like. And I can say, I know you're in pain. I've literally felt that pain before. And so I'm not going to tell you just get over it, or tell you, well, it's just the journey. Like I don't say it like that. It's, how can I help soften those symptoms now, understanding that it's not going to resolve the root issue, but how do we help resolve this pain or this suffering that you're experiencing while still working on that root cause? And that's another big thing, as we work together and create that pattern, it's about making a plan together. So a plan of, okay, let's look together at how do we want to start delayering the emotions. And for some, that's referring out to a therapist. I have some beautiful therapists that I will send people to. If it's lighter and something that, can be done on their own, maybe with a little bit of the flower essence help, which we can dive into, and my guidance around those, that's beautiful. Those pair so well with nutritional therapy. And then on the physical side, mapping out a plan of, okay, do we want to just balance symptoms? And I have a lot of clients that they're like, Jessi, like, I can't dive in right now. Like, now that I understand, okay, they can look at their life and realistically make a plan of, I can't dive into something super deep right now. Right. But I want to feel better. But I don't just like give them supplements and say, you're all better. I'll give them supplements with them understanding this isn't going to resolve it. You got to know there's no pill. You're going to at some point have to delayer your physical process. You're going to have to reprocess all of the infections, not all, but, give your body the tools to reprocess everything at the physical level. And that can be done, in a big way or in a slow way over time, but it's something that needs to be done. You can't just continue and it stays neutral. Like, it keeps building. Just keeps building. So for those that are like, I'm all in, they're usually the ones that, like, I've been to all the doctors, I've been to all the different practitioners, I'm seeing an acupuncturist, I'm getting massage, I'm with a therapist, and I'm not feeling better. And that's where I go, all right, you and me, let's do this. We're going to dive into multiple testing, functional testing, usually always gut testing. I love the mediator release test for checking in on that cell response. So for those of you that are unfamiliar, that are listening, it's a food hypersensitivity test. So it's different than like a food allergy test or a food intolerance test or even an IgG test. It's a cell response to food. So if food causes inflammation within the body. So those are two big ones. And then from there, also just checking in on hormones. So massive. So, and of course, as we're talking about stress, the adrenals. So like a thorough cortisol panel and things like that, really diving in and getting an understanding of, okay, let's go even deeper and not just look at symptoms, but let's actually look at numbers and get the understanding of how your body's functioning. And that's where we create a plan from there. So the goal is to bring the body into a state of balance and bring the emotions and thought patterns into a state of balance, right? So my two tools are nutritional therapy, holistic nutritional therapy, and flower essence therapy.